Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and I wanted to talk about one of my newer watches, the Swiss watch company Bunker, and talk about kind of my impressions of it, review. Now, I've actually worn this watch for the past week to kind of get a better feel for it, and talk about its pros, cons, and kind of what do I think, and kind of where it would rank amongst my my watch list. So, in terms of what this watch is and what it isn't, so this is a tool watch. This is not a watch that's going to really kind of, this is not a flashy watch. This is not a watch that's going to really kind of, you know, stick out on your wrist and maybe get people to take notice, unless you're dealing with watch guys who notice every watch. But, it's a very kind of subdued watch. It's a field watch. It's a tool watch first and jewelry second. It's extremely legible, very comfortable. It's very light, as you can see here, and thin. So this actually fits. This is a great watch if you're wearing long sleeves like jackets. So what I found now that it's winter, my jacket just fits over this watch so easily. If you have to check your time, you lift your hand up, check your time, the jacket just slips right over. And some watches, like these guys, you slip your jacket over, you kind of have to work to kind of get your cuff back over it. So this one, added benefit, it kind of just blends into your wrist. Very legible. If you have poor eyes, or if telling time is really the most key thing you want on a watch, I mean, this is very, very legible. Probably one of the most legible watches I have, not only due to the AR, but just the dial is very clean. It's kind of very reminiscent of like my Speedmaster. It's just that black and white contrast. There's no kind of no fancy, nothing. That it just kind of does, kind of focuses on one job. It's telling time. The red second hand is, I think, a very nice touch. Helps you really quickly identify in terms of seconds. The numbers are nice and big. Everything is very well contrasted. So this is a very, very good tool watch. This is a watch I'd probably definitely would recommend to like my dad, for example. He is by no means he's a tool kind of guy. He doesn't need anything jewelry wise or flashy wise. Everything has a purpose to him, so this would be an excellent watch for like him. And probably doesn't have the best vision, so this also helps. The movement's been pretty accurate. I actually tracked it. It came up as, I believe, +6 seconds a day for me, so very very impressive. I only ran it for about, I think, 3-4 days I tested, so in the initial short results it was really good. The handset is good. The case, obviously titanium. I give it high marks on the case. Dial and hands, also very high marks. I mean, it's nothing fancy. It just kind of a very basically does one thing, that's tell time. Crystal bezel. Obviously there's no bezel here, so I'm not going to talk about that, but the crystal is amazing. Like I said in my initial video, I mean, this has, again, out of all the watches I've tried, this has really the nicest crystal. The AR in this thing is just, amazing. Very legible. The only downside I've seen with having such a clean crystal is I feel like I notice smudges on this watch more than I would in some other watches. I think because it is so crystal clear, the littlest handprint's going to kind of bug you. Now, in terms of kind of some premium features, kind of what are you getting here? So obviously you're getting titanium, which is an upgrade, screw down crown, you get jeweled lugs, you do get a, I would say a nicer movement. You are getting a Swiss movement, a high frequency movement, runs pretty accurate, so I would consider that a premium feature. Lume on this thing is really good as well. Now the lume on this watch, this is a field watch, and I don't have a whole lot of field watch experience, so take this with a grain of salt. But the lume on this watch, it was good, but it wasn't like impressive. It wasn't like, like something like this would have. Like some of my divers, like this Orient Star, or my Marine Master 200, these watches have I think better lume, especially in the brightness. So One thing about this watch is that it doesn't get like super bright like a torch like some of the other two watches I've mentioned, but it does last a real long time. Um, I've taken it off at night and looked at it like 4 or 5 in the morning, and you can still make everything out. So I still give it a high lume rating. I just wish I had more field watches to compare it to. But again, compared to divers, which obviously, you know, are known for lume, I think this does hang with them. I wouldn't say that, you know, this is maybe, I'd say, I don't know, maybe slightly better. Um, but still, I would still say this is really good lume. Now, in terms of its, kind of watch status in terms of in the market, it is a micro brand, so it doesn't have that pedigree in terms of collectability just yet. I mean, who knows? I mean, it's a relatively new company, so we don't know if they'll be around in 5, 10 years. Will this become a kind of iconic watch? I don't know. It's too hard to tell. I mean, the field watch segment, I think, is still kind of pretty uncluttered. There's market share to be taken. I kind of feel like it belongs maybe to the Hamilton khaki. I think that's probably the most like common field watch. Well, I take that back. Rolex Explorer, and I forgot about the Seiko Alpinist. So there are some, so there are some big hitters in that category. So in terms of collectability, I don't give it high marks just because it's a young company, so we don't know kind of what the future holds. Now, as far as value, I do give this a high mark in the value department. You're getting a lot for the money. So for $400, I don't think you'll be able to find anything cheaper that gives you this. So to get titanium, Swiss movement, amazing AR, great lume, drilled logs, screw down crown. I mean, I think this is, I don't know who else would give you all that for that price. So this is an extreme value driven watch. So again, this watch I think is a great watch for those that are kind of from a practical standpoint, right? Where you want to watch it just to tell time. You want something reliable, that's durable, indestructible. You don't want to overpay. I mean, this really is a watch for that kind of non-watch person per se, meaning they don't really care about any other bells and whistles. They just want to be able to tell time reliably. This is a great watch for that, especially at this price. So in terms of kind of my scoring and how I equate it to kind of the rest of the watches I've used and tried, this does actually score pretty high. I think it's actually the high. I mean, granted, I haven't tried many micro brands, but in a link below, I'll post kind of my watch ranking, and you'll see that this watch comes in at, where do we have it at? I believe it's almost in the top 10. Let me just double check here. So it's number 11, which is pretty impressive overall. So it is a great watch. So it almost made my top 10, just missed it by one. But that's going up against things like the Pelagos, the Speedmaster. So it's by no means, it's kind of in the heavyweight class, you might say. So now let's talk about kind of pros and cons. So I kind of already went over some pros, but let's look at the cons, I should say. So one big con for me is that it doesn't come with a bracelet. I like bracelets. But then again, this is a NATO machine because it's so thin. For me personally, I sometimes have a hard time using NATOs, like on some watches, because they're already pretty thick. The NATO just kind of adds that extra thickness and makes the watch kind of a little too like top heavy and stick on your wrist. So for a watch with such a low profile, this is actually perfect for NATOs. And because this watch is a little kind of it is a little dull in its appearance. It's not it's not going to really stand out in the crowd. I mean, when you put it up against like some of these other watches, I mean, these are shiny and shimmery and blingy, and have reflections of light in all the right places. I mean, on a sunny day, these are like reflectors, where this one's a much more subdued. So what I've kind of, a couple ways I think to give this watch a little kind of little characters, you know, NATOs. So, you know, throw it on a colored NATO, and this watch does kind of pop. So, I mean, you throw it on a nice kind of a blue NATO here, and I mean, it kind of does change the appearance of the watch. So you go from having kind of a little bit of a dull look to now you gotta have, you know, something that's gonna kind of, you know, draw attention to it. So that's what I've been doing as a way to kind of help, you know, dress it up a little bit, is just throw it on a NATO. You can throw it on something a little flashy, you know, or you can go, you know, low key too. So if you want just a kind of a stealth look, you know, I found this NATO works really well, kind of all blacked out. So this just gives you a ton of versatility with NATO straps because of how thin it is. So that's kind of what I've been doing actually the last couple of days, is kind of just throwing it on, some kind of giving it some color, just because I kind of do like a little, you know, I like a little something on the wrist to kind of, you know, look good. So yeah, so you see kind of, you know, when you put it on a NATO, it does kind of really bring it a lot, kind of bring it out more. So that's one way to kind of dress it up. You know, the other con, at least for me, is kind of what's included in this watch. So, you know, I'm not a big fan of these kind of leather straps. This is a little too dressy. This is something I think would be good on a dress watch, not a field watch. So I don't particularly like the stitching. It's kind of thick. I mean, maybe some like it, but this is just me. I think this is more kind of this would be more kind of for a dress watch, where something like this would be perfect. You know, this is, you know, a much more kind of rugged looking leather, and for a field watch, I mean, that's kind of thing. I think what you need is something a little bit more, you know, a little more kind of rugged looking. So I think like this kind of leather strap, I think, would have been much nicer on this. And unfortunately, this actually is a 22 millimeter. But, you know, when I got this, this is a, I think I pronounced it Colorab. When I got this, actually, I felt like they didn't quite cut it right, and it was a little too small for 22, and I almost felt it was like a 21, so I ended up kind of scrunching it, and I've been using it on a 20, so it doesn't really fit in this 22. I kind of feel like I kind of got a defective one where it came in at 21, not at 22. The other strap they include is this elastic strap, which I think is actually really nice. I do wish maybe it was a little bit different color, but it's not too bad. The only problem with this one, it's too small. I mean, not too small, but I mean, it's a tight squeeze to get it through here. You know, it doesn't kind of go in easy, but then to get it around your hand, you really have to almost unbuckle it, because it's, you know, maybe I'll just show you guys here. Let me just show you quickly what I mean here. I think I might have seen that someone else mention that too, maybe Random Rob. I can't remember who else mentioned it, but that's the only drawback to this one. Why I don't use this one is it's just too small. So let's see here. Get this one back in. I probably should have left one in. Okay, so you get it going. So you see, it's kind of tight to get past it. So ideally, you'd want to leave it here, but I mean, it's impossible for me to get this on, and I have, you know, average. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, I wear a size large glove. I have, but a little bit. And on a summer day, maybe 7. In winter, maybe a little under 7-inch wrist. So by no means like massive hands, but you know, it's impossible to get this on. So this strap needs to be longer. The only way to get it on is to really take it to the very last one, and then it just barely gets on, and then it's a little bit of a, you know, tight squeeze. So it's doable. I just wish it was a little bigger, but outside of that, this is a very comfortable strap. Like, this is, you know, I wish I could buy more of these. You know, I'd want a little bit more color, but otherwise, you know, no problem. So that is kind of it in a nutshell. And you see, trying to get it off, the same thing. I mean, you kind of have to fight. It's not easy, or I put it that way. So But yeah, overall, great watch. I am going to keep this watch, just because I have no field watches, and I think I kind of want one. And there's use cases where I think I'd use this. So where I see myself using this watch is really in cold weather, if I'm only wearing a jacket, just because this is so comfortable to wear with like a coat or long sleeves, because how easily you can check the time and not get their jacket all cut up. Like if I'm wearing this watch and I pull up like my jacket to check the time, then trying to get the sleeve back around it, it's a little annoying. So, but yeah, I think this is a great tool watch, so I'll definitely be keeping this in a rotation. Looking forward to see what else Swiss watch company comes out with. I've been looking at their divers. One thing I like about them is that they're kind of doing unique things. They're not just making another, Submariner homage, or just kind of copying something else. They are kind of inventing their own look in a way. So their new diver actually looks pretty cool. I might kind of take a look at that sometime, just because I do like divers, and I like how they have that kind of an interesting bezel, where it's not just your typical round. It's kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Textured, I guess. But yeah. So I'm gonna end this review here. Check out in the description. I'll put a link to kind of my watch ranking system, so you can kind of get an idea how this watch ranks in comparison to some of my other ones. And thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.